Hi guys, just got done watching Hammer Horror's Blu-ray release, well, Shout Factory's release of Hammer Horror's The Vampire Lovers from 1970, starring Ingrid Pitt, Pepper Steele, Madeline Smith, Peter Cushing, George Cole, Dawn Adams, Kate O'Mara, Douglas Wilmer, and John Finch. Now, this is what the Blu-ray looks like at the Shout Factory release. Inside you have a disc and you have some artwork. There we have it right there, as you can see. Very nice indeed. So basically, at the beginning, Baron Joachim von Hartog, I don't think I said that right, his sister was murdered by a vampire. And basically he gets her to come to him by stealing a bit of her thing from her grave. I can't remember what it was. It looked like a bit of clothing. And she was going bonkers for it. And she follows it and basically comes to him, and she turns out to be a very beautiful, elegant looking, erotic woman. And basically he ends up going all stiff, and she goes to bite him, and his hand just goes and cuts her head off. That's kind of like a prologue kind of thing. Then basically you see Peter Cushing as General von Spilt's dog. Dolph. As basically he's having a party, all his friends are over, and basically you've got Marcella, aka Carmilla, aka Michaelia, there with her mum, I'm guessing, or her friend. Can't remember what her name was. But basically she gets information from the man in black. Who's, I'm guessing, the man in black, who looks like a vampire, looks dead. And she says she has to go away and do something, but could she leave her daughter with him? So he says, sure, we'll be more than happy to look after your daughter. So basically, you sit there, you're watching it, you're thinking, oh, it's going to get heated up. There's been decapitation already. So Marcella basically stays with him. And this film is set in I think this film's set in 1970. Where are we? 1970s. It's set in the 1970s. Not 1970s. The film was made in 1970s. It was it was set in the 1700s. Oh dear. See what happens when you take notes and you kind of scroll through. It was set in the 1700s. And basically, she stays with him, and he's got a daughter called Laura. And his daughter Laura basically isn't very keen on Marcella at first, because she's at the party, she's looking right at the bowl thing. She's looking at she thinks she's looking at her partner. And her partner Carl, Ebhard, if I'm right by that. And he says, no, darling, she's looking at you. And this is when you think to yourself, hold on a minute. The Vampire Lovers, the cover shows men being, what do you call it? The cover's very, I will be honest, the cover's very deceiving. Because that doesn't happen. But it's kind of got me, I want to see men chained up and women chained up and these vampire women dancing around them, you know, biting them and stuff. But, you know, this film is 44 years old. So Marcella basically ends up befriending Laura, and there's this real eroticism in this movie between the women. And basically Laura starts having these nightmares about this big massive cat or dog, I can't remember either way. And it's great, and it turns out it's Marcella basically watching her. And then Marcella says, I won't let anything happen to you. As long as you're with me, you'll be okay. And she touches her, rubs her face, gives her a kiss on the cheek and then on the lips. Then she puts her head down just above her breast area and bites into it. She doesn't bite into her neck, she bites into her breast area, just up there, like there. And we're like, okay, this is going to get interesting. So Laura basically gets ill and dies, and Marcella leaves, and she ends up staying on the way with the woman again. they break down and they bump into none other than George Cole, aka Roger Moulton in the movie. So Roger Moulton says, come stay with us. Your lovely friend Camilla, whatever her name is for her, will be great friends with my daughter Emma Moulton. He doesn't say Emma Moulton, but he says Emma. And basically the same thing happens again. Except Emma doesn't die, she just gets very weak. And I wish this chair would stop squeaking. And so you end up with Carl Ebhart basically visiting Emma because Laura's dead. And he bumps into Roger Moulton and he says, go visit her, she'd like to think, because Laura was her best friend and you were in love with Laura and so forth. So he goes to visit her, and the Countess, the governess, won't let him go in because she's been pulled by the vampire woman too. That's right, she's getting off with all of them. And basically, you don't see any real... The thing is, there's no real eroticism in this movie. It's like a book. It's hinted at, you know. It's kind of like one of those books where you watch it and you read it and you're like, oh, where's the good stuff going to come? It's all teasy. Like, women rarely kiss in it. It's just the way they look at each other and the way they touch each other in the movie, which is supposed to be erotic. So, you can see, like, they're really busty and stuff, and, you know, you can see things through their 90s and stuff. But, you know, we want a little bit of kissing, a little bit of, you know, get down on that muff. You know what I'm saying? It was the 70s. They did do that a lot. But anyway, so she tries to get away with Emma, and Carl Ebhart comes in, and he goes, no, I shall not let you go. And she knocks the sword out of his hand, and she has him, and she better by into him. And Marcella looks over at Emma, and Emma goes, and she goes, and Marcella goes, and then he pulls out a knife, right, and he holds it up like a cross and starts saying words, and she goes, now, realistically, I don't think that can actually happen, but this is a Hammer horror film, and she disappears. She just vanishes, turns into a ghost, boom, and disappears. So then you get Baron von Hartog, Roger Moulton, and the General, Peter Cushing. They go to the gravesite where she was, and you find out she was born in 1522. I keep saying 90s, I don't know why. 1522 to 1546. So she was 24 when she died. This was set in 1709, I think. So that's a long, long time ago. So they go, and you see her wandering back, and they hide. They then go into where she's buried, or where her tomb is. They open her up. She's asleep like this. Peter Cushing gets the stake. Boom! Blood spurts out. And he says the only way to know for sure is to decapitate her. So he goes, and he holds her head up like this, and he drops it. And then you see him carrying out the coffin, and that's the end of that movie. Now, this movie is based off a book called Carmilla, as far as I know. I haven't read it, but I've heard it's a lot better. It's a lot more detailed, but then most books are. The film itself, I have to admit, it's dated quite a bit since the 70s. It's still a good watch, but it's dated a lot. Like, the bite marks are two little holes, like two little red dots, but you can see it actually just put on there. They don't look real at all, but it is the 70s. When I saw the cover, I expected to see naked men tied up and all sorts of things. And it's really kind of put out there as a kind of, you know, violent movie. But there's no violence in it whatsoever until the beginning and the very end. So there's all this thing where, like for instance, Marcella's sitting around and she's just flirting and kind of pulling the women by kind of seducing them. And it is hot to see to a degree, but I'd rather see a male vampire do it. Not because I'm against lesbian women or anything, but because I'm a bloke. I guess I would like to project myself through like someone like Dracula, if you get what I'm saying. As with lesbian vampire kind of thing, I'm not as interested because that doesn't get my goat going. Do you get what I mean? That doesn't pull my strings, if you get what I mean. And the whole vampire lovers, where was the loving? There was a little bit of kissing, a little bit of petting. Her basically petting the woman's head again. It's okay, I'll never leave you. But I expected there to be some real, action going on. Not on camera, but more of a kind of relationship. There is a bit where Emma Morton, I think her mum, I think is the governess, if I'm right. I could be wrong here. Has basically got this pin and she sticks it on her. And basically she goes, "Take me with you, Marcella, take me with you," or Carmilla, whatever her name is at the time. Because she's got 3 names in the film. Like, she's got Michaela, Carnestein, Carmilla, Marcella. So whatever one it was at the time. Forgive me if I don't get them right at the right time. So, I was a little bit kind of gutted by that because I expected a little bit more, I expected a little bit more action, a little bit more of this. Peter Cushing's in half of the film and then he just disappears and you move on to Roger Moulton's character. Roger Moulton, who's played by George Cole, is quite famous for Minder. Minder was a big show in England on British TV. Peter Cushing, everybody knows Peter Cushing. If you don't know who Peter Cushing is, then you don't deserve to be watching horror. It's like not knowing Peter Cushing. It's like not knowing Boris Karloff. It's like not knowing Vincent Price, Christopher Lee, among others. That's what it's like. If you don't know Peter Cushing, you don't need to be in the horror community. Either that, or you need to go out and you need to buy a whole load of his movies and give him a go. Peter Cushing was fantastic in this movie. The half he was in, he was great. But I have a feeling that he was probably filming another film for him at the time as well. Because how they changed it up, like I've noticed with Hammer horror films, like they'll be filming 2 or 3 movies at the same time. They might have the same people in it. So they switch them over. So they end up in half of one film and half of another. I've noticed that. When I watched The Reptile and Rasputin and all that, I noticed that. Like, what's that other one? There's a zombie one. And zombie one and a reptile one. Where, I can't remember what the zombie one's called. But it was a double bill. They're being filmed in the same places. And when you watched them straight after each other, you could tell it was the exact same places. Now, good for them. But if you watch too many Hammer horror films in a row, you can't get bored because you see the same scenery. The films are awesome. And they're great for their time. And they're very inventive. Another thing about The Vampire Lovers is it did start a new phase. Because basically, back in the 70s, you had vampire movies going quite a bit. And Hammer Horror had basically, kind of pulled out all the Dracula movies, mostly. They did some more, I think, after. But they've done so many of them, it was a bit like, we need something different. So instead of having Christopher Lee as Dracula, or Peter Cushing, or whoever it was, I know who they were, but I mean at the time, because there was a couple of different ones. I think they wanted to do a female version, which was basically The Vampire Lovers. Now, it was based on a book, and the book, like I said before, I've heard is pretty good. But the film, to me, it didn't seem like it reached the full potential it could have. The film, it depends on who you are, because some people would probably look at it and go, this is a masterpiece of pure 70s cinema. And to a degree, I could agree with someone about that, because it is really beautiful. It's artistically done. The colours are beautiful. The characters are beautiful. The acting is fantastic. It's a pure A-grade movie. But at the same time, I feel like something is missing from the film. And that something is probably in the book. So, I don't know. Is a vampire woman gonna obsess over women and kind of take them and then just nothing happens? But I don't know. I like the film, but there's a part of me that didn't. So I'm very mixed, because it's one of those films I can see if I was at a certain mood on a certain day, I would think, oh, this film's amazing. This is one of the best vampire movies I've seen. Not because there's much vampirism in it. Like, there's not a lot of biting, even though there is at the end a couple of bitings. It's not that kind of film. it's kind of like the more erotic kind of side of vampirism. Like the whole emotional side, the love side, the erotic side. And the erotic side isn't through sex. It's through the way she's dressed, the way the people are dressed, and the eye contact, and the touching, and the petting. It's something that I think somebody who really, really enjoys, you know, films that have subtleness to it will probably enjoy. Because that's what it's like. I mean, Ingrid Pitt, who plays Marcella, is fantastic. She's beautiful, she's sexy, she's got that look about her where she looks like she could pull anybody, let alone women, but she could pull men as well. And she's just got that presence on the screen of seductiveness. You feel like you want to move into the TV and be with her. You know, Pepper Steele, who played Laura, she was great because she was kind of this weak girl who had her general father, who was in love with Cole, Edbert, and they were going to be together. But then she got to know Marcella, and she got more and more kind of like, ooh. And Marcella was taking her over in some way. And that's what I mean. Then you've got Emma Moulton, who was the same way, except a little bit stronger. So, I don't know, you know, I like the film, but I also don't. It's a 50-50. So, depending on the day, would depend if I really liked it or not. Today, I did. I liked it, but I can't imagine myself watching it again anytime soon. I mean, it's a good film. It's just not got the action in there of a vampire movie that we want. You know what I mean? Or that I'd want, I should say. I expect more. It's a 70s film, sure. You can understand. It's more about the erotic side, more about the side probably that's in the book. It's probably what's missing. So I'm going to give the film a 3.5 because I liked it. I thought the characters were fantastic. I thought the people involved were fantastic. I mean, Ingrid Pitt, Pepper Steele, Madeline Smith, Peter Cushing, George Cole, they were excellent. I can't put them down. They were fantastic. I just feel like a lot was missing from this movie that could have made it even better. So if you like vampire movies and you like them more for like the eroticism than the violence, this is the film for you because it's got a very subtle kind of erotic side to it, but it's there. It's just one of those things. It's hard to explain. I would have liked to have seen more Peter Cushing. And I would have liked to have seen this happen in the film, this cover. But that's a different story. So, guys, thanks for watching this review. I'm sorry it wasn't the best film to review. And I'm sorry that, there wasn't that much excitement in it. But it's a good film. I do recommend giving it at least one watch. Because you'll never know if you like it or not. Because the thing with Hammer horror films is some of them were really fantastic. Like Dracula, Prince of Darkness. You know, and Frankenstein and stuff like that. But then you had the odd ones which were really, really terrible. And kind of like thrown to the side. Like C versions of A grades. You know. So, like First Devil Rise Out was a fantastic one. The Reptile, on the other hand, wasn't as great, but it was good. And this is what this is like. Good, but you feel like it could have been so much better. Maybe it was because it was based on the book. Maybe it wasn't. But anyway, guys, that's a 3.5. Give it a go. Not bad. Worth a watch. I highly recommend giving it a watch, especially if you like lesbian tendencies, even though it's not that action-packed with it. And, yeah, Ingrid Pitt, beautiful. Fantastic. Sadly, she's passed on now. But good to watch her when she was beautiful. So take care, guys. Enjoy the review. And take care.